All right, well, as we go, as we're into the second quarter here, the reason we're playing Nets versus 76 is we're actually going to do some breakdown of the Brooklyn Nets, who are very different than what's on the court tonight for Connor. So the Nets are actually a 5-second violation on me because I'm playing a video game and doing a sports show at the same time. Um, the
By the
net,
way, thanks for our podcast viewers who will listen to us struggle through playing a video game and run a sports show at the same time.
yeah, that is big shout. By the way, I want to give a huge shout out to let everyone know. Of course, it is 8 o'clock. It is Tuesday night as we are on Twitch. Connor and I are one YouTube subscriber away of hitting our goal for 40, as we are 6 months into Friend Stream Sports. To have 40 subscribers is a goal we set. Help us hit that goal. Click subscribe on our YouTube channel. Search for Friend Stream Sports. We are one away.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks to all 39. We
that's
needed
a
we needed numbers 1 through 39 to get to 40. So
yeah
thank you to our subscribers.
to our subscribers. One day we will have merch to give you. But
Except
Brooke,
for Daniel Mogg. We'll get Mogg his merch very soon.
we'll give Russell Wilson Daniel Moggs merch when we meet Russell Wilson.
Oh, no doubt. That'd be a great idea.
Anyways, back to hosting a sports show. So the Brooklyn Nets are 20-12 this year, which includes 11-5 at home, 9-7 on the road. Here's a big stat for you, Connor. They've won 6 in a row. They were 5-0, and during that time, KD missed a bunch of those games, and Kyrie didn't start all of those games. Um, this week, their schedule, they have the Kings, the Magic, and they have the Mavs, which we're going to pick at the end of our show tonight. Their scoring leader, though, KD leads them in a lot of categories. He leads them in scoring and rebounds, while also Embiid with the shot. You got to get that. KD leads them in scoring, and DeAndre Jordan leads them in field goals. I do want to have this interesting information for you. Most teams, you'll see one superstar is dominating. KD, Kyrie, and James Harden all have over 25 points a game, with the lowest being James Harden at 24.9 if you round up. James Harden actually leads the entire NBA in assists with 11 assists a game. So there are some pretty big stats there. Connor, what is your takeaway of the Nets, who, of course, the big NBA story was we talked about them before with KD and Kyrie before the season. Now they're brought together. What is your takeaway of the Nets where they're at now?
I think, you've got your big three, right? And I think, as we mentioned before, the Nets went in and they had a big time win against LA without AD, but they didn't have Kevin Durant. I think that in a lot of ways, this team's best basketball is in front of them. One of the things to remember is even with your quote big three kind of teams, Rutledge, you'll remember this being a Heat fan. When the Miami Heat were doing their thing, they had Chris the Birdman Anderson, who he was not the star, he was not the stud, he knew his role, he embraced his role, and he kind of had a little bit of a cult following. When the Orlando Magic were doing their thing and playing really well and had a bunch of all-stars playing at really high levels, they had Matt Barnes as a guy who was really making a big impact for them. Maybe not necessarily every night on the stat sheet, but just in terms of that mentality and that culture. What the Brooklyn Nets have, and a guy Jeff Green, who's actually dealing with a shoulder contusion right now. He's a guy who's embracing his role, and that role is to be a wing player that sometimes needs to play center, because the one thing that the Brooklyn Nets are that can be a blessing and a curse is that they've got three guys that don't necessarily have a position, right? You've got Kevin Durant, the 6'11" guy who has the handles of a point guard. You've got Kyrie Irving, who famously told James Harden, "You play point guard, I'm gonna play, or you play point guard, I'm gonna play shooting guard," right? And then you're telling that to James Harden, the guy who seems to like to shoot just a little bit, if we remember him from his time in Houston. So that's one of the things that, assuming that continues to stay ironed out, I think the ceiling is really high for Brooklyn.
I agree. I think January 14th, 2021 is just going to be a day that lives in infamy for the Brooklyn Nets franchise, as that was the day that they acquired James Harden and then all of a sudden took off and just started dunking on everybody and making a really big deal. Offensively, they are a nightmare. Even if they don't have Kyrie and KD in the lineup, they win in a variety of ways. To coin a great Connor term. Um, Defensively, they are the number 26 ranked defense in the NBA, and that is based off that is off of NBA power rankings, and that's also a defensive stat number that the NBA pulls together, which means they're in the bottom five. But that doesn't concern me too much. It may be a worry when they get deep into the playoffs in a series um, against the 76ers, but it doesn't make me question them because they're outscoring their opponents, and basketball is very much outscore your opponents.
Give
So
us a little bit of a hot take right now in a 7 game series as it stands today. Who you taking between the Brooklyn Nets and um, let's go Milwaukee Bucks. I think that's an interesting conversation piece.
that is a very good conversation because Nets Bucks, I see that being. Ooh, I'm gonna take that, and here's why. I'm gonna put that on, and I need to score. I'm getting killed. I'm gonna put that on a 5-1 series. The 5-1 series is game one, and it doesn't really matter who's at home because the NBA is probably not going to allow fans this year at all, even though we're progressing. 5-1 series, you're gonna have an the Nets are going to come out and they're going to completely out. They're going to lose game one. They're going to come in maybe a little arrogant. I think they're going to lose game one and then they're going to adjust. The Bucks with Giannis, and I think Giannis is a fantastic player. Chris Middleton is not having the supporting season that he needs to have to support Giannis, and Milwaukee is still kind of just built around Giannis Antetokounmpo to where the NBA is moving into a league where it's showing that you can put stars together and they can evolve very quickly. Look at how fast the Brooklyn Nets are doing compared to AD and LeBron James, and then even compared to the Heat with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. Remember when the Heat, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade all came together, everyone questioned them. The Nets came together, they're going very fast. So I think they would maybe lose a game one to the Bucks, but then run away with it and do a sweep. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, I think as it relates to this quote, the series before this series that we'd hope to see with the Bucks. And don't worry, my next question is, we're going to talk about the Sixers a little bit in that matchup. Yeah, I just think eventually you've got too many stars, right? There's Manalytics, but as our hopeful, maybe one day friend of the show, Colin Cowherd, likes to talk about, you need Manalytics, especially in the NBA. It's a star-driven league. Um, the only thing that I could see being an issue would be a would be a big time exploitation of Kyrie on defense, as he's not known for playing defense, and James Harden getting tired at the end of the season in a playoff type manner. So with that, um, who would be your probable Eastern Conference matchup champion here between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets?
As in, is that going to be the game, or who do you think wins that series? You're
Who do I think
calling
wins that series?
it's really going to depend on how the Nets evolve. I read a great article on NBA.com that DeAndre Jordan is really trying to take the lead for defense for Brooklyn and sort of help with that because there were some times in his career I feel like Stephen A. Smith has yelled that James Harden just doesn't play defense very well. Um, so I see that going to 7, and I'm gonna put it at 7, and I'm gonna put it as a very close game that could sway either way, but I'm gonna give it to Brooklyn because of star power. Um, when Seth Curry and Joel Embiid are on the floor, they do very, very well together in Philadelphia. However, if Brooklyn just continues to grow into gel as fast as they are, then it's going to be kind of scary to see. So um, I have that 7. How many do you have that? But Brooklyn taking it.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a Sixers guy. I'd say Sixers and 6. I think that it's definitely a Joel Embiid is a big time issue, and yeah, Sixers and 6, and he can overpower Jeff Green with enough defense to cover those three. A lot of wild games though, but